Senator from Tennessee.
Thank you, Mr. President. Today marks day 212 of this new Congress under Republican leadership, and I would offer to my colleagues this has been a most successful beginning of a Congress. When you look at the nearly 750 hours that we have spent working, the 450 votes that we have taken, when you look at how we have pushed to move forward, how we have fought obstruction from our colleagues on the other side of the aisle, you do realize that we indeed are helping to fulfill the promise President Trump made when he said, "We will make America safe, secure, healthy, productive, and great again." And you know what, Mr. President? That is precisely what the American people voted for. They want action. They want things to be done differently. And indeed, a Republican House and Senate and this administration, led by President Trump and Vice President Vance, they are delivering on this. Look at the border. What we are seeing is a border that is secure. We know that we have some of the best numbers, lowest illegal crossings that are coming across those borders. We're returning to building a wall. We're getting the Border Patrol what they need to do their job. We have the Laken-Riley Act, which Senator Britt led here in the Senate, and this helps to detain those criminal illegal aliens. The Halt Fentanyl Act that Senator Grassley led, Senator Haggerty with the Genius Act to give us that first crypto bill to make certain that we retain the lead in that emerging technology legislation. Those are all a few of the things that have been accomplished. And of course, you look at what we did in the One Big Beautiful Bill. Tennesseans are really looking forward to this bill because of what it does. When you look at the fact that we got rid of a lot of that far left Green New Deal spending, we put money in to modernize our military for 21st century warfare, the Border Patrol agents and the funding there that is needed. It is all there, and the people said, let's get back to addressing our debt and restore some fiscal sanity to this country. $37 trillion of debt. We didn't get there overnight, and it's going to take a dedicated, focused, intentional process to get us out of this debt, to address it. And of course, we're delighted, absolutely delighted. And we're so pleased to know that June was the first month in not a year or a decade, but 3 decades that this government ran a surplus. Those are good signs. Indeed, last night on this floor, moving forward 3 of the appropriations bills. There are 8 bills that have already come out of committee, and we processed 3 of those last night to make certain that we get onto a budget, that we get off of the Biden-era CRAs and onto the numbers that President Trump and our Appropriations Committee has moved forward on. And this marked the first time since 2018 that the Senate passed appropriations bills before the August recess. Now, that is so significant because what are the first things that we're supposed to do? One of them is to fund the government. And for my colleagues that always want to reduce federal spending, which I am one of them. We have to go through the appropriations process to be able to do that. And of course, in addition to the One Big Beautiful Bill, we also had the rescission bill, which gave us an additional $9 billion in cuts. And Madam President, we need to realize when we do these rescissions, that's the equivalent of taking that red pen and marking through those line items and saying they are gone. The American people wanted to see the high cost of living and inflation addressed, and indeed, with the One Big Beautiful Bill, we've been able to get things heading the right direction. For Tennesseans, we know that there is going to be a $2,600 per year savings in taxes with that One Big Beautiful Bill. We know that people are looking forward to this, and that the Big Beautiful Bill was the largest tax cut in our nation's history. Indeed, we expect from the Council of Economic Advisors numbers, we're expecting to see families in Tennessee increase take-home pay somewhere between $7,000 and $10,000. Those are numbers that are significant. And you know, Mr. President, what that does is say to people, we want you to have more control over your pocketbook and how you choose to save your money and how you choose to spend your money. All of those things are accomplishments, 212 days of this Congress, and those are all items that we have been able to move forward on. Our other committees are hard at work. We're approving judges and getting them through the process, ready for floor votes. Indeed, the first appellate judge appointed by President Trump and approved by Congress is Whitney Hermendorfer out of Nashville. We look forward to seeing her on the Sixth Circuit. And all of this, we've moved forward at a rapid pace. Now, I want to talk about what has happened with nominees. Of course, everyone's aware we approved the cabinet in record time, getting people to work. When it comes to those sub-cabinet positions and judges and U.S. attorneys and U.S. marshals and ambassadors, our friends across the aisle have enjoyed playing a game of obstruction. You know, it is as if they learned nothing November 5th. And our friends across the aisle have lost at the ballot box. They have lost in the U.S. House and the U.S. Congress. They've lost in the courts. And so now what we hear from many of them, and you can look at some of their campaign websites, they're holding resistance labs and encouraging people to obstruct. They think, Mr. President, that they are harming us. What they are doing is harming the American people, thwarting the will of the American people. They're trying to slow walk these nominees, making a game out of it. How many can they hold back? But what they're doing is acting outside of the norm. And what they're doing is proving to the American people that they are not here to address the issues of the day. They are here to see what they can stop. Now, I've got a chart with me, Mr. President, that I think tells a great story. You'll see the heading, Civilian Nominees Confirmed by Voice Vote or Unanimous Consent in First Term. That is a president's first term. And in order to provide context for what is happening in the U.S. Senate, I think it's important that we go back and look at history and see what that yields for us and the lessons that it yields. And as I said, this is nominees that are confirmed by a voice vote or unanimous consent in a president's first term. Now, Mr. President, that is a practice that has been an accepted and expected practice of this body. When you have a deputy or an undersecretary and sometimes nominees for different boards, they are grouped together in block, and then they're moved through the process together, and they receive either a voice vote or they move forward by unanimous consent. It simplifies the process. And many times, as I've talked to Tennesseans, what they've said is, we're not certain how many nominees are there. When you talk about President Trump not getting his nominees, are we talking about 100 people or 200 or 300? No, it's about 1,200 positions. So let's put the context on this. President George H.W. Bush, he had 98% of his civilian nominees confirmed by voice or unanimous consent. President Bill Clinton, 98%. George W. Bush, 90%. President Obama, 90%. President Trump's first term, 65%. President Biden, 57%. President Donald Trump's second term, 0. 0. Not one. Not one single nominee. Not one. Now, Mr. President, this is the obstruction that they are practicing within this chamber. Now, not only are they doing that, but they are wanting multiple votes. They want cloture file, then they want the cloture vote, and then they want the 2-hour period or 4-hour appellate judges and cabinet secretaries, a 30-hour clock to run. They're doing that on every single nominee. Now, you can imagine how much time this would take if you have to follow this pattern for 1,200 people. And you see why it is deemed by many people in this country to be an act of obstruction by the Democrats. Now, this is a practice that has gained steam under the current Democrat leadership. They feel like they are hurting the Republicans, but what they're doing is harming the American people, because the agenda they voted for, what they want to see accomplished, cannot be accomplished. What the American people voted for President Trump to do, our friends across the aisle, Mr. President, would choose to slow walk that. What they're doing is hurting the people they were sent here to represent. I yield the floor.